Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Sorry to come on so late today. We've had a technical issue here. I will never, ever again restart my computer when it says updates are available before the show. I will never, ever do that again. Even if there is a half an hour before the show, and I think a half an hour is enough time for a computer to do updates, I will never do that ever again. All right, so we live and learn in this life, and so welcome to Sudbury News Talk, CKLU 96.7 FM, CKLU.ca, Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, but mainly comment, because commenting is this is your show on your station. So this is your conversation. And we welcome Monique. Good morning, Monique. Sorry for being late. I hope you're having a great Tuesday today. Good morning, David. Stay safe. And today, I hope you're having a great day as well. And thanks for jumping on, everyone. And again, we apologize for being late this morning. Very late, actually. Over half the show is already gone. So, but we'll do our best to talk about the main story of the day anyways, after a very quick weather update. Just want to get our comments on the screen here, ready to go. And weather, I just want to briefly go over the weather today. So, and a little bit of sports. So currently it's minus 14 degrees, feels like minus 24. And tomorrow today it's going to get up to about minus 3 is your high, but tomorrow is going to be plus 1 and sunny. So how could you have any better quick weather than that? Let's keep it quick all the time if it's going to be that good. And your sports, Sudbury Wolves are in action tomorrow night against the Sioux Greyhounds in town, and Friday against Peterborough Petes. So there you go. That's as quick of a roundup as we can do to catch up good morning, Vin. Hope you're doing great today. And welcome our co-host this morning, Billy. How you doing this morning?
Good, thanks.
Okay.
It's always good, thanks.
It's always good, thanks. It's AI. Billy is actually just AI. And we're waiting for people to catch on to that.
Slowly becoming sentient.
Well, we got a great show, even though it's only 20 minutes today. We'll get started. There's go through some of the headlines that we shared on our Facebook page. Let's just get the screen here going. We have, there you go. 1, 2, 3. There it is. The top story we shared on the Facebook page is interesting because, you got the banking system, I don't want to say the banking system collapsing, but you have banks that are collapsing. The second and third worst bank collapses in the United States just took place from the Silicon Valley Bank and then Signature Bank in New York. Both of them, in a bad state of affair. Joe Biden announcing that he is going to bail them out, as far as I saw. And so there's an article we shared on our Facebook page right at the top about what happens with us if one of our banks collapse. So if a Canadian bank fails, how much do you get back? We'll have more on that possibly tomorrow. Our main story of today, the Renee Sweeney or the Robert Stephen Wright trial, went ahead yesterday, where he was on the stand being questioned by his lawyer. So obviously, the questions wouldn't have been so hard. They wanted to establish, for the jury, his kind of side of things. And that's what was done yesterday. We'll go through that for the remainder of the show. That's basically our deep dive and our main story of the day. I shared all of the major outlets' stories on this, so that way you can get all the angles. If there's something that one news outlet shared over another, you can get a more congruent, conclusive idea of what's going on with that case. Really cool story here. Jazz Rose just put out her original songs, releasing original songs. She had a cover tune music video a few years ago. She's recently graduated. She is Evolutionary Band alumna, and she just released her first single. And I think, Billy, you had something to do possibly with the recording of that.
Yeah, that was with Norm McIntosh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you remember that.
I think Brent and I worked on one of those.
Exactly. So there you go. So hopefully maybe on tomorrow's we can share that. The OPP have this new technology where it just looks at your license plate and it can read it, AI kind of stuff. It just lets them know if you've registered or not, gotten up-to-date license plates. And if not, the sirens come on and they can pull you over. One of the comments that was scrubbed, because I have, Facebook, you can set it automatically to take out any swearing or whatever. And I guess they used it deemed ASS as a swear. So you won't see this, but Barbara says to that story, oh, gee, now they have even less to do besides sitting on their ASS all day. The public and technology does most of the work for them. They still get good benefits and good pensions. Don't get me started. So that's from Barbara. You won't see your comment, so that's why I thought I would read it. And that is your opinion, right? And I'm sure other people share somewhat of that opinion. Does Billy share that opinion? That's what we got to know.
I don't know. I think it's a pretty tough job, especially these days. Not something I'd be cut out for, that's for sure.
Good morning, Diane. Thanks for being with us. Bon matin, everyone. So feds commit to bail reform for repeat violent offenders. You may want to do a little bit of research into that. That's what's going on in our legal system, right? So you want to know how things are changing, very progressive these days. So check in on that. We would like to do a deep dive maybe tomorrow on that. Again, we shared the Stephen Wright trial going on. Marcus Schwabe, who is the host of Morning North on CBC, you listen to him all the time if you're driving in the car usually. He's on from 6 till 8:30 every morning. His daughter just has been working for the Toronto Raptors. It's landed her dream job. She was invited to join the staff last summer. And anyways, Marcus Schwabe made a full documentary about his daughter's journey in the NBA. Kind of neat. Always good to see Sudburyans kind of living the dream, getting their dream jobs, right? So let's check into what happened yesterday in the Stephen Wright when he was on the stand. So Billy and I were going over it already in the morning while we were waiting for the infamous computer update. So that's what it's going to be called from now on, the infamous computer update, which put us back a half an hour. So anyways, Stephen took the stand, and Billy, if you wanted to sum up the...
If I was going to sum it up, yeah, I think he said he was a young, dumb kid who came across a crime scene and made a bunch of bad decisions.
I think that's a good way of summing it up, for sure. And rightfully so. I think his lawyer, as I would if I was his lawyer, I would do the exact same thing. I would, try and frame the story, truth or not, because if it's true, it's going to be framed in the truth anyways. And if it wasn't, and I was his lawyer, I would want to frame it in this way as well, that he was just a confused young teenager, high school age kid who encountered something horrific and then really just got scared. Really? Right, Billy?
That's the way it came across to me, yeah.
Yeah. So it was during exams. He's from the Valley, but he was going to, is it Lockerbie or Llewellyn?
I didn't catch that.
Anyways, so he's going to high school in the South End because he was part of the a special science program. So he had some time to kill and was walking by the adult video store. He said he dabbled in pornography before, and so he, thought he would check this place out. He bought pornography at different corner stores and whatever. Good morning, Judy. Thanks for being with us. Miles is going back to the Canadian banking story we just did and said all deposits in Canadian banks are insured by the CDIC. The U.S. doesn't have this. That is correct. That is one main differentiation between our banks and theirs, although don't get too safe in that as well, because there are other things you'll need to look out for if our banks fail, because that's what the story said. If our banks indeed fail, how much can you expect from the bank? It didn't say, oh, you'll get all your money, don't worry about it, right? So there are some provisions you're going to want to look into. So back to the case. So he had some time to kill. He dabbled in pornography before, bought some from different outlets and thought, I'm going to check this place out. Walked in and didn't immediately see anything, but after noticing there were some videos on the floor and stuff, thought, okay, that's not normal. Looked towards the counter and saw what he thought it looked like a mess or whatever, but it was a puddle of blood later to be determined. So he went back there and he saw a lady lying on the ground and thought immediately to check for her pulse. He said he took off his gloves, took off his jacket, leaned over, checked out, if she had a pulse. She did not. He said he tried to do whatever he could, got very terrified from what he was seeing, realized what was going on, stood up, almost lost his balance, steadied himself on something. That explains the fingerprints idea. What he could not explain, however, were fingerprints on the top and bottom of the cash drawer. So Billy and I were having this discussion before, and I said, well, if you're terrified and whatever, and you're trying to steady yourself, do you go, oh, I wonder if this place has been robbed. Let me just check, and then go over to the cash drawer and just see. Is that something that goes through a very traumatized, confused teenager's mind right after encountering something like this? I was suspicious of that. But then, Billy, you thought?
No, I would be suspicious of it as well. My point is that, in my experience, any sort of memory of something, you have, it's almost like reality has all these weird things to it that if you're you expect it to be kind of like a movie script, all these logical things, but it's always full of these, little quirks that, again, I think my whole we've talked about this before, almost beef with what happens in a lot of these shows is people make a very, a premature judgment without hearing, I'm going to reserve my position until I hear more from the other side, and then, because I think if you form an opinion too early, you start to see more stuff that validates your opinion. You start to put blinders on stuff that, detracts from that opinion. And I don't know. I think in general, society would be better off if they sort of reserve judgment till a little bit later, get more body of information.
And I am on the same level as you. I go piecemeal, right? I asked the question about how did his fingerprints get on the top and the bottom of the cash drawer.
Good question.
I didn't say he was guilty. You know what I mean? Whereas I know exactly what you're talking about. And I see it in comments and social media, and I'm sure a lot of the people watching and listening have heard and seen the same, where people are just take a rope and throw him over, hang him over City Hall right away, or things like that. It's right away they jump to judgment, and I think we are a lot like that in our society. Now, Miles is wondering, how did his DNA get under her fingernails? So how would you explain that? Now, I don't know per se if it indeed has been deemed his DNA yet because of the DNA evidence that came out in the trial already. I know they said it was male DNA. I don't know if they knew 100% that it was his DNA per se. And they did say they handled the DNA improperly, and so a lot of that is questionable now. That would have been great, like if it was for sure his DNA under her fingernails, and the investigation was done properly, it was handled properly, and we then knew that, then obviously you would have to answer that question. So we would really need to know if indeed they verified it was his DNA. But that's how I thought they found him in the first place, right? After 25 years or 20 years at the time after the crime, I thought new DNA was able to narrow it down that it was his. So now they say, well, they didn't handle it. It was tampered with. You know, can you really trust it? But how did they even find out that it was him? And he admitted he was there. So obviously they said it was through DNA evidence, or was it just fingerprints? Because he did admit those were his fingerprints. When he stood up, he started feeling faint and he had to steady himself. He said he put his hands down on something. So that explains the fingerprints. He said those were his gloves and his jacket that were discarded behind the adult video store. Because he freaked out. Two people came in, a male and a female, and he just bolted for the door, pushing them aside, bolted for the door. They described him. They said, was this description you? He said, yeah, that was me. He didn't know where to run. He just ran anywhere, which again, you can see like Billy, right? Like if
you're in a state of shock, it's a possibility.
It's a possibility. Right. So he ran, he discarded his gloves and his jacket. He was going to go to his friend's place, but he said no. He just walked downtown without a jacket, without gloves, in the cold. Walked around the mall for a while, took the bus. He lived in the valley, took the bus home. Parents weren't home when he got home. He just got home. Didn't say anything to anyone after that. He didn't want to involve anyone. And he says that's the thing he regrets the most is not saying anything to anyone about it and just running. He should have just stayed at the scene. However, I was saying if he would have stayed at the scene, he would be in jail today, for sure. Like there's no doubt about it. They wouldn't even have really investigated much. He was there. She's dead. He's got blood on him. He's guilty. And society would have said he's guilty. Police would have had an open and shut case. They wouldn't have had to do much digging, and he would have been the guy. Easy peasy. So I don't know even if he is innocent, if there is the small chance, I think it is a small chance that he's innocent. But I will at least entertain that thought that he could be innocent. If he was, he did do the right thing by leaving, I think, because he would have been in jail for sure if he would have stayed.
Well, it's hard to say for sure. I mean, a lot of people are the first on the scene of a crime, and they don't automatically get, charged and with that crime. There's a possibility that it could have played out better for him.
Now, legally, was it legal for him to even be in an adult video store?
I don't know. Yeah, high school student, probably not 18. Or is it 19?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember back in the day how the laws were for that. So Miles is saying, well, there will be cross-examination. That's true. Today, starting at 10 a.m., he's going to be cross-examined by the Crown. Crown can be pretty vicious, from what I've seen anyways, in other cases where the Crown was asking questions of anyone, whether they're your lawyer or, your lawyer, they're good, obviously, but you don't want to be on the opposite end of a Crown attorney. So Jen says, I don't believe the DNA was tampered with. Collecting of it wasn't as progressed as it is today. He's had to say he was there because of the DNA was there. That's what I thought too. I thought originally that's how they came across him as a suspect and arrested him, because of the DNA.
I thought I heard there was actually 2 potential families that it came from. They got that far. And then by sort of like a process of elimination that, these people, there was a connection to his parents or something.
Correct.
And then they could sort of deduce from there, well, he was a student and it's...
Yeah, who would have been in that area at that time from this family or those two families? Exactly. Yeah, it was again, so it wasn't conclusively his, but it definitely, it puts him at the scene. Obviously, now he has to explain, well, if it's not his DNA, it would have to be a relative of his, a close relative, right? If that's how they determined it was his DNA. But they haven't done anything to do that. They haven't, tried to point the finger. And the other day, I was thinking back, and I remember how all this started. It started with someone who was found burned to death in a shed in Minnow Lake. I remember that. It was a weird kind of happening. Mm-hmm. Someone was found dead, deceased in a shed. They were burned. And then somehow it related. And then shortly after, they got to this, and he was arrested. And I thought there was some link there, and I'd have to go back, and it hasn't really been put out in our media currently to make that link. But I thought that's what started the ball rolling, was a suspicious death.
There was some connection to it.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
it might have been like a rumor that somehow this guy was the, it was a revenge attack on it or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's interesting. I'd like to go back and look more into that. Well, Billy, unfortunately, it's all the time we have for today. It is 8:29, and I apologize to all you for the technical difficulty that happened this morning. We're looking forward to having a full-blown show tomorrow of a whole hour on CKLU 96.7 FM. And thanks for being with us. Thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that stuff in social media. And we'll see you guys. Thanks for commenting. Same time, same place tomorrow. And thanks, Billy.
Thank you
for sticking it out. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Have a great Tuesday, everyone. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.